They say time heals all wounds, but some losses leave marks that never fade. When someone is gone, it's not just their absence that hurts, it's the lingering presence of their memory. Strangely enough, among all living beings, one creature seems to understand this pain better than most: the elephant. In this journey, we'll explore how human grief finds a silent, majestic mirror in the animal kingdom. Loss is one of the most profound and universal experiences in human life. It's a silent shadow that sneaks in unannounced, reshaping everything we thought was permanent. When we lose someone dear, the world doesn't simply stop, it fractures. The emotions that arise aren't just sadness, they are a complex tangle of pain, confusion, anger, guilt, and longing. Grief is not a straightforward path but a winding journey, one that each person navigates in their own unique way. Imagine waking up to a morning where a familiar presence is suddenly missing. The empty chair at the breakfast table, the phone that no longer rings with their voice, the scent in the air that once belonged to them but now feels hauntingly absent. These are the everyday reminders that loss implants in our minds and hearts, making the absence tangible. Grief invades the mundane, turning routine moments into poignant memories and painful triggers. In many ways, grief is invisible to others. We learn early that society expects us to move on, to put on a brave face, and to carry on with life as if nothing happened. But this expectation can isolate those who grieve, making them feel misunderstood or alone in their sorrow. The truth is, grief has no timeline. It can linger for months, years, or even decades. It's not a wound that heals simply with time, it's a deep scar that remains as a testament to what was lost. Physiologically, grief impacts the body as much as the mind. Sleepless nights, loss of appetite, headaches, and even physical pain are common manifestations of emotional loss. The brain struggles to process the absence of someone who was once central to daily life, and this cognitive dissonance can lead to fatigue and forgetfulness. The heartache felt is both metaphorical and real, a testament to how deeply intertwined our emotions and bodies are. Grief also challenges our understanding of the self and the world. When a loved one dies, our internal narrative, the story we tell ourselves about life, love, and safety, is abruptly rewritten. Questions arise that often have no easy answers. Why did this happen? Could it have been prevented? How do I go on without them? These questions can haunt us, making grief feel like an unending storm. Despite its weight, grief is a deeply human experience that connects us all. No one is immune, and no one is truly alone in facing it. It is in this shared vulnerability that we can find a strange kind of strength. It reminds us of the depth of our connections, the love that once was, and the capacity of the heart to endure even the most shattering losses. But grief is not only about pain, it's also about memory. It's about holding on to the essence of those who have left us, keeping their stories alive in our hearts. It's in the rituals we create, the stories we tell, and the silent moments of reflection that we honor their lives. Grief teaches us about the fragility of existence and the enduring power of love. As we explore grief further, it becomes clear that humans are not the only beings capable of such profound sorrow. Among the creatures of the natural world, the elephant stands out as a remarkable example of emotional depth and memory. Just like us, elephants feel loss, mourn their dead, and carry memories that shape their lives. The journey into understanding grief through the lens of the elephant will open new doors to empathy and insight. It will reveal that the instinct to mourn, to remember, and to honor those we lose is woven deeply into the fabric of life itself. And it challenges us to rethink what it means to grieve, not as a weakness or a burden, but as a testament to the enduring bonds that define us. Elephants are among the most majestic and intelligent creatures on Earth, but beyond their size and power lies a profound emotional complexity that has fascinated scientists and animal lovers alike. They are not only known for their remarkable memory but also for their deep social bonds and striking behaviors around death and mourning. In many ways, elephants embody grief in its most tangible, moving form. Picture a sprawling savanna or a dense jungle where a herd of elephants slowly approaches a place where one of their own has passed away. Unlike many animals that simply move on, elephants often linger, touching the bones or body of the deceased with their trunks, caressing the remains gently. This behavior, observed in both wild and captive elephants, hints at an awareness of loss and a ritualized mourning process that few other animals display. Elephants live in close-knit family groups led by a matriarch, often the oldest and wisest female. These herds can include multiple generations, from babies to grandmothers, all intertwined by bonds of loyalty, protection, and care. This social structure means that the death of a member is deeply felt. It affects not only individuals but the entire community. When an elephant dies, the herd's response is almost reverential, as if they understand that something irreplaceable has been lost. One of the most fascinating aspects of elephant behavior is their memory. The phrase, "an elephant never forgets," is rooted in truth. Elephants have large brains, especially in areas related to memory and emotion, and their ability to remember places, individuals, and experiences is extraordinary. This memory extends to the dead. They will revisit the bones of elephants long gone, sometimes for years, as though paying homage to their lost companions. Scientists studying elephant herds have documented repeated visits to the remains of deceased elephants, where living elephants appear to engage in behaviors that resemble mourning. They may remain silent, stand vigil, or gently touch the bones with their trunks. Younger elephants are often observed learning these behaviors from older members, indicating that mourning may be a culturally transmitted practice within elephant societies. Elephants also display behaviors suggestive of emotional distress after losing a close family member. Researchers have reported elephants showing signs of depression-like symptoms, withdrawal, loss of appetite, and vocalizations that seem to express sadness. These emotional displays challenge the idea that complex feelings like grief are uniquely human and open a window into the shared experience of loss across species. The habitat of elephants. From the vast plains of Africa to the dense forests of Asia, provides a backdrop for these behaviors that combine instinct, memory, and social bonds. The elephant's ability to remember water sources, migratory paths, and the identities of herd members is crucial for survival, but it also means they carry with them the memories of those who have died along the way. This deep connection to memory and loss makes elephants a powerful symbol for understanding grief. Their rituals around death and their apparent reverence for the deceased invite us to reflect on our own ways of mourning and remembering. What can the behavior of these gentle giants teach us about honoring those we have lost? How does their instinctual mourning mirror the human emotional experience? As we delve deeper, the parallels between human grief and elephant mourning become clearer, inviting us to explore the roots of our own emotional responses in the natural world. The elephant story is not just about an animal's behavior, it's a mirror reflecting our own capacity for love, memory, and sorrow. At first glance, humans and elephants may seem worlds apart, one species marked by complex language and culture, the other by instinct and survival. Yet when it comes to mourning, their behaviors reveal striking parallels, woven by the same threads of emotion, memory, and social bonds. The way elephants grieve their dead holds an uncanny mirror to human sorrow, reminding us that grief is not just a human experience but a shared journey through loss. Both humans and elephants rely deeply on memory to navigate the landscape of grief. For humans, memories of the departed become a sanctuary, a way to keep their essence alive in stories, photographs, and rituals. Similarly, elephants revisit the bones and resting places of their lost kin, touching and lingering as if drawing strength from remembrance. This act of remembrance is more than routine, it is a profound connection, a way to honor and preserve the presence of those who have passed. Consider the gentle touch of an elephant's trunk on the bones of a deceased companion. It's a gesture filled with tenderness, reverence, and perhaps, a longing to bridge the gap between life and death. In humans, a similar impulse drives us to keep personal belongings, visit graves, or commemorate anniversaries. These rituals serve as anchors for our grief, helping us navigate the turbulent waters of loss with a sense of continuity and respect. Grief in both species also unfolds socially. Elephants mourn collectively, their herds reacting as a community to loss, huddling together, vocalizing softly, or standing vigil. In human cultures, mourning often gathers family and friends, weaving a network of support that reinforces shared sorrow and healing. This communal aspect highlights that grief is not an isolated pain but a bond that draws us closer to one another, strengthening connections even in absence. Metaphorically, elephants teach us about the weight of grief carried within. The massive bodies of elephants seem to carry not just physical mass but emotional depth as well. Their slow, deliberate movements around the dead evoke a solemn respect, mirroring how humans often slow down in grief, burdened by the heaviness of loss yet moving forward with quiet determination. The instinctual nature of elephant mourning reveals that grief is deeply embedded in the biology of social animals. Humans, too, carry innate emotional responses shaped by evolution, our brains wired to form attachments and suffer deeply when those bonds are broken. This shared biological foundation underscores that grief is not a weakness or something to get over, but a natural, vital expression of connection and love. The parallels don't end at behavior but extend into the realm of emotional expression. Elephants produce low-frequency rumbles and soft sounds when grieving, resembling a vocal language of sorrow and comfort. Humans, with our richer languages, use tears, words, music, and art to express the inexpressible pain of loss. Both species demonstrate that grief is more than an internal state, it is a language spoken by the heart, a dialogue between the living and the departed. These similarities invite a humbling realization. By observing elephants, we glimpse the universality of mourning. Their rituals and emotions remind us that grief transcends species and culture. It is part of what it means to love deeply, to belong to a community, and to carry the memories of those who shape our lives. As we reflect on these connections, we see that grief is not a solitary burden but a shared heritage of feeling. The elephant, with its enduring memory and gentle mourning, stands as a symbol of resilience and reverence. In their sorrow, we find echoes of our own, and in their remembrance, a guide to how we might honor our losses with grace and compassion. The path ahead leads us to understand not only the emotional and behavioral similarities but the science that explains why these patterns exist. How do psychology and biology intertwine to shape such profound grief in humans and elephants alike? This next chapter will uncover the scientific insights behind our shared mourning, deepening our appreciation of this timeless bond. Grief is a universal experience that transcends culture, species, and time, and science helps us understand the profound mechanisms behind it. When we explore the biology and psychology of grief, we discover that both humans and elephants are wired to respond deeply to loss, reflecting ancient evolutionary adaptations that ensured survival and social cohesion. At the heart of grief lies the brain's emotional circuitry. In humans, areas such as the amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex play crucial roles in processing emotions, memory, and social bonds. The amygdala, for example, acts as an emotional alarm system, detecting threats and triggering strong feelings like fear and sadness. When a loved one dies, this system reacts intensely, alerting us to a profound loss that demands attention and care. The hippocampus, essential for memory formation, helps us hold on to memories of those we have lost. These memories, though painful, serve an adaptive function. They allow us to learn from past experiences, maintain bonds through recollection, and navigate life without the physical presence of the departed. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and social behavior, helps us manage grief by regulating emotions and guiding us toward adaptive coping strategies. Interestingly, similar brain structures govern elephants' emotional and social lives. Though their brains differ anatomically from ours, elephants possess an enlarged temporal lobe and a highly developed hippocampus, which support complex memory and emotional processing. Studies have shown that elephants can remember specific individuals for decades and display behaviors indicating emotional awareness, such as distress vocalizations and social withdrawal after loss. The biological foundation of grief is deeply rooted in attachment theory, a psychological model describing the bonds formed between individuals, especially between parents and offspring. In humans, these attachments activate the release of neurochemicals like oxytocin and dopamine, which foster feelings of trust, love, and security. When these attachments are broken by death, the sudden withdrawal of these comforting chemicals triggers emotional pain similar to physical pain. Elephants, too, form strong social attachments within their herds. Their long lifespans and complex family structures create enduring bonds that, when severed by death, cause behavioral changes comparable to human grief. Observations of elephants lingering near the deceased, changes in feeding or movement patterns, and vocal expressions indicate that they experience separation distress rooted in their attachment bonds. Scientists have also explored the hormonal underpinnings of grief. Cortisol, a stress hormone, rises sharply in grieving individuals, both human and animal, indicating a physiological stress response. This hormonal surge can affect immune function, sleep, and mood, underscoring how grief is not merely a psychological state but a full-body experience. Moreover, the rituals humans and elephants engage in around death may have evolved as coping mechanisms. For humans, funeral rites, memorials, and mourning practices serve to acknowledge loss, provide social support, and facilitate emotional processing. For elephants, the touching of bones, vocalizations, and communal gatherings around the dead may function similarly, helping individuals and groups cope with grief while reinforcing social bonds. This scientific understanding helps dissolve the misconception that grief is solely a cultural or psychological phenomenon exclusive to humans. Instead, grief emerges as an adaptive, biological process shaped by millions of years of evolution in social species. It strengthens social cohesion, encourages caregiving behaviors, and ultimately supports the survival of communities through shared loss. Understanding the biological and psychological roots of grief allows us to approach mourning with compassion and patience, recognizing it as a natural response that helps us heal. It also deepens our empathy for animals like elephants, whose mourning behaviors reveal a capacity for emotion that science is only beginning to appreciate. As we continue exploring grief, we move from the scientific to the personal, looking at how these emotional and biological processes play out in everyday life. What do real-world examples of grief teach us about resilience, connection, and healing? The next chapter will bring these ideas to life through stories that resonate deeply, illuminating the human and animal experience of loss. Grief, while deeply personal, often reveals itself most vividly through everyday behaviors and stories, both human and animal, that make the abstract emotion tangible. Through these lived experiences, we witness how the shared nature of mourning manifests in gestures, rituals, and interactions that echo across species. The following examples reveal the quiet, sometimes surprising ways grief shapes lives and connects us to the natural world. Take Sarah, a woman who lost her father after a long illness. For months, she found herself drawn to her father's old belongings, his worn leather chair, his favorite books, the faded photographs lining her walls. Like elephants returning to the bones of their dead, Sarah's interactions with these objects became a way to keep his presence alive. She described feeling comfort in these moments, a silent conversation bridging life and loss. Her story exemplifies how memory and physical connection serve as lifelines through grief. In the animal kingdom, the story of a famous elephant named Echo captures the powerful social bonds that underpin mourning. When Echo's matriarch, a pillar of the herd, died suddenly, the elephants gathered around her body for days. They touched her bones with their trunks, made low rumbling sounds, and stood vigil as if paying respects. Observers noted that even months later, Echo would return to the site alone, lingering quietly as though in contemplation. This behavior highlights a level of emotional depth that challenges previous assumptions about animal grief. Similarly, human communities across cultures express grief in rituals that echo elephant behaviors. In parts of Africa and Asia, funeral processions and ceremonies can last for days, involving communal singing, dancing, and shared storytelling. These gatherings provide emotional release and reaffirm social bonds, just as elephant herds come together to mourn collectively. Both illustrate how grief fosters connection rather than isolation. Another poignant example is James, a father who lost his young son in a tragic accident. Overwhelmed by loss, he began carving wooden elephants as a form of meditation and remembrance. Each sculpture was a tribute, symbolizing strength, memory, and the protective nature of the herd. For James, these carvings became a healing ritual, turning grief into creativity. His story reveals how grief can inspire profound acts of meaning-making, bridging pain and hope. Animals, too, display behaviors that speak to grief's complexity beyond the initial shock. A study documented how dolphins refuse to abandon their dead calves, sometimes carrying the bodies on their backs for days. This prolonged mourning parallels human tendencies to hold on tightly to lost loved ones, sometimes in ways that surprise outsiders. It underscores that grief can be a process, unfolding over time, with stages of denial, acceptance, and adaptation. Consider also the simple, everyday example of a pet owner grieving the loss of a beloved dog or cat. The rituals of lighting candles, creating photo albums, or visiting a pet's favorite park mirror human funerary practices and elephant mourning spots. The deep bond between humans and their pets makes grief tangible and real, illustrating that the pain of loss transcends species and is woven into the fabric of social bonds. These examples collectively illuminate grief as a shared language of love and loss. Whether it's the silent vigil of elephants or the tearful embrace of a grieving parent, the behaviors reflect an innate desire to honor, remember, and heal. Grief shapes actions, transforming sorrow into rituals that sustain memory and community. Through these stories, we also see resilience emerge, a quiet strength that allows humans and animals to carry on despite the ache of absence. Grief does not disappear overnight but evolves, becoming a part of our emotional landscape that teaches us about connection, impermanence, and the enduring power of love. As we prepare to conclude our exploration, it's time to reflect on the lessons embedded in grief's depths. What can we learn from elephants and our own experiences that will help us live more fully, love more deeply, and mourn with greater compassion? The next chapter invites us into this space of reflection and growth. Grief, in all its raw intensity, teaches us lessons that reach far beyond the pain of loss. It reveals the profound interconnectedness between human beings, animals, and the natural world, reminding us that mourning is not a weakness, but a vital expression of love and belonging. As we reflect on the emotional journeys of both humans and elephants, a powerful message emerges: grief is a teacher, a guide toward deeper self-awareness and compassion. One of the most important lessons grief imparts is the value of presence. In the moments when we feel most vulnerable, the simple act of being present, whether with others or within ourselves, becomes a radical act of healing. Elephants exemplify this in their long vigils and gentle touches, showing us that honoring the memory of those who have passed involves mindful attention rather than hurried closure. By embracing grief's timeline, we allow ourselves the space to truly feel and process, rather than suppress or rush through emotions. Grief also teaches us about resilience, not the absence of pain, but the ability to grow through it. Humans, like elephants, carry the scars of loss, yet find ways to adapt and continue. This resilience is found in rituals, in the stories we tell, and in the small acts of remembrance that anchor us. Recognizing grief as a natural, biological process liberates us from shame or guilt, enabling us to face our emotions honestly and with self-compassion. Furthermore, grief invites us to reevaluate our relationships and priorities. Loss forces us to confront what truly matters: connection, empathy, love, and shared experience. Elephants' deep social bonds highlight that our survival and happiness depend on nurturing these ties. When we understand this, we can approach life with greater kindness, not only toward others but toward ourselves, acknowledging our shared vulnerability. Another reflection comes from the realization that grief is a bridge, not only connecting us to those who have died but also linking us to the larger ecosystem of life. The parallels between human and elephant mourning remind us that emotions transcend species boundaries. This awareness can foster a sense of environmental and ethical responsibility, urging us to honor all living beings with respect and care. By understanding grief's universality and depth, we open pathways to transformation. Instead of viewing grief as an enemy to be defeated, we can see it as a vital teacher guiding us to live more authentic, compassionate lives. This shift in perspective allows grief to become a source of meaning rather than only suffering. In embracing this wisdom, we also learn to hold space for others in their grief. Compassion grows when we recognize the pain behind tears, the silent struggles beneath quiet faces. Offering presence and patience to those mourning becomes an act of profound humanity, echoing the empathy elephants display within their herds. Finally, grief encourages us to cherish the impermanence of life. It sharpens our awareness that every moment is precious, every relationship sacred. This mindfulness can inspire us to love more fully, forgive more readily, and live with intention, knowing that loss, though inevitable, is part of a larger, beautiful cycle. As we close this journey, the question lingers: how will you carry grief's lessons into your life? How might you honor your own experiences of loss while deepening your connection to others and the world around you? Grief is not the end of the story. It is a beginning, an invitation to embrace the fullness of what it means to be alive, to love, and to remember.